Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empower Podcast. This is episode 41 with Steven. Hi, Steven.
Hi, how's it going, brother?
Hey, it's going. Can you tell everybody else a little bit about you, Steven, so they have a little background?
Yeah, my name is Stephen Lafferty. I'm actually a Melangen man from Eastern Kentucky. I'm a psychic and fortune teller, mystic, and an occultist. I've been on quite a few television shows and podcasts, European radio stations, news coverages, and on the cover of the newspaper, the Courier Journal in Louisville, Kentucky.
Awesome.
Quite a few other outlets as well, but yeah, I forget most of them, actually. So.
Absolutely. We're going to dive back in. For those who don't know, what is Empower? It's a podcast run by healthcare professionals for healthcare professionals and community healers to help establish and achieve milestones through a continuing commitment to raise that, again, transparency and awareness, not alone, but together as a community. We have goals such as having legislation passed not only in the state of Colorado, but throughout the whole United States, mandating employers to provide employee wellness programs through a minimum of 8 wellness days for all healthcare professionals per quarter, a minimum deposit into an HSA account per quarter that is tax exempt at the federal, state, and local levels, and the establishment of a third-party run anti-retaliation department in each healthcare system. At Empower, we believe in the power of community, diversity, and inclusivity to create positive change and improve society. Our podcast aims to amplify those voices that often go unheard, featuring interviews with individuals and organizations who are making a true difference in their communities and beyond. Through thought-provoking conversations and inspiring stories, we strive to raise awareness and promote action towards a more equitable and sustainable healthcare realm throughout the world. Yeah, right. And if you haven't, if you could follow, like, subscribe, thank you all very much for your support. Before we kick off here, Stephen, too, I want to acknowledge the winner of the overall $25 Amazon gift card, which I had never ever done a giveaway before, and that's Anna Marie. Go ahead. I've made outreach to Anna Marie. You know who you are, and we will go ahead and get you that. So thank you again for participating. Thank you all for listening. And then we are available again on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and beyond. And this is the part where I'm going to tell you, everybody, sit back, be yourself no matter what, and get ready to be empowered. Alrighty, Stevens, this is part of the show where we do a big community thank you. Didn't know if there's any organisms, anybody in your social structure, or anyone that makes a true difference in your life and your overall sense of being.
Absolutely. Start off with the great spirit of God. You know, he's my numero uno in this universe. My wife, Denise, she is an incredible supporter of me along my journey, and I couldn't do any of this without her. And, of course, Aaron Washburn, which you've had Aaron Washburn on your podcast before. He's my best friend and business partner. He's an amazing hypnotherapist. And, of course, his wife, Chantel, she's an amazing lady who is very gifted herself in artistic manners. And, of course, direct family, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and all that. Yeah. And, of course, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I have to pick a part of the show where I say, Brett, does this guest make you feel empowered? And Stephen, absolutely. You do make me feel empowered. And Aaron, shout out to for being on the show. He's on past episode prior to you, episode 40. So if you're listening to this, you go ahead and check out Aaron's. Not only it was the return of Aaron Washburn. That's what I did put as the title there. So because he does have his first episode from, I believe it was back in July. So, but yeah, no. So we wanted to go into the overall 2 questions, and whatever way they come out is whatever way they come out, and that is, what is the integrity of healthcare like for you, and then what, in your opinion, is happening in healthcare, Stephen?
Okay, the integrity of healthcare for me. I don't really feel that healthcare is patient based or circumstantial like it should be. I feel like they have their own mundane routines and procedures that they follow. They don't really have the person in mind. There's generalized procedures, for diagnosing and treating specific illnesses, but a lot of people go untreated because it seems like they have the wrong illness for the medicines that they're getting in the world today. It seems like it's an overall situation for a lot of people. My mother included. She actually had her thyroid dissolved and was misdiagnosed back in '98. She's been suffering tremendously since and going through some temperature issues. But personally, me, I've had a couple issues with mental health. I've had to, it turns out it wasn't actually mental health. It was just a spiritual awakening process that I had kind of ascended through. And All these things, it circles back around to not getting the guidance and the help that I needed, or the families, from friends and family, they didn't really get the help that they needed either. It just, nobody really seems to care about the individual. They care about making money, going to work, receiving their paycheck, and it needs to be more personal, in my opinion.
I get that. If I can get, I mean, not totally get 120% whatever anybody says on the podcast, but I can definitely see I get that. It's from what I feel, from what it is, if I can offer, it's the humanistic aspect.
Yeah.
We are very efficient with being able to have the supply and demand of whatever supplies a patient needs, somewhat, even to the degree that they know down to a T how many they may need and may not need. So, I mean, I just worked a past shift, if I can offer this, at my last one of the locations I'm working at right now. And I went and picked up the Tylenol bottle, and usually they're full. They're like halfway full, or they're like 3 ways. Right. There was just like not even a quarter full. And I was like, are they legitimately, this was theory, I can't say this is what was happening, but are they legitimately counting down the Tylenol right now? Like, are they really looking to see?
That's crazy.
And it seems that there's this overemphasis on that. But when the overall thing of what makes the Tylenol appear there isn't. You're right, and that's the patient experience, and that's anywhere. And wow, and to see the overall, to talk about the integrity of that. And thank you for sharing that, because it's not just with you. It didn't start with me. It didn't start with you. It's out there too, and it's the conversation to be had. But to see
about the Tylenol, just what does the Tylenol and the Excedrin do for you? I mean, Excedrin is caffeine and acetaminophen, or acetaminophen. A lot of times, if people were just fully hydrated, they had more caffeine, because that's what happens in society. We get addicted to different caffeinated beverages. And when you have a lack of it, or your body is just going through the caffeine a little bit more than usual, you might receive a little bit of a headache. And first thing you reach for is Excedrin or Tylenol for a high price. And if you would have actually been advised by a healthcare professional about what the causes was for those headaches, it's because you drink caffeine. Or it's because you are not hydrated properly.
The other risk factors.
It has very adverse effects to your body. So the education for the individual, it would prevent a lot of this big pharma push on people, because it's a push situation. It's not an availability; it's a push. They want to treat you. This is how you cure it, rather than pushing the education, the information that would prevent you from needing it.
The preventative. So I've seen the distinction of some people will say it's Eastern versus Western medicine, because there's the overall emphasis on both, and ours is on the cleanup, in my opinion. When everything is the worst of the worst, when it actually, I feel like, too, from a business standpoint, was also the most efficient way as well. But it's interesting to think, at least I guess that's from that mindset. It's amazing to step outside of whatever it is the general mindset, and see, could it be more preventative in doing that? And could that be still a market? And I mean, if I can offer this too, I know more and more now people are having fevers and they're testing for COVID. So it's like, is that technically preventative? And is that technically a market? Regardless of what it looks like, regardless of the history, is that measure still a preventative measure to take? Is it still being done? And is it still generating a market elsewhere? That's the conversation I'd like to bring. But I get the other parts of what that looks like too. Right. So,
something that's really astounded me is the lack. You might jive with their vibe with this, man. Is the lack of education we have in the public school systems about these things. Think about this for a second. If a person knew how to keep their home clean, if they knew how to prevent germs from spreading, if they used colloidals, if they use different anti-parasitics and antimicrobials, if they knew how to apply those, because the general population doesn't really have an education on how to prevent the spread of COVID. They see ads, but there's no education on it. So if we were educating the younger generations on these things, as well as, finances and how to spend your money, don't you think we'd be a better civilization? I mean, disease would spread less. People would be better with their money. We'd be a stronger country in general. But we don't really provide that information. We expect that the people of this culture, they're going to receive that information, off muscle, off the top from their family and friends. And, we're not born knowing how to live in society. It's something that we learn over time. But I just can't understand why we don't have those essential topics of education for our younger children. If they did have that education, if we had that education, COVID wouldn't be it would have never been an issue for us if we could have prevented it before it happened. We're not the cleanest people.
And the other thing too is historically, most people haven't looked into is coronaviruses have been around for a long time. They're historical, and it's just it's coming back into existence or coming back into the limelight. So it's interesting to see too. I feel is if nature's coming out, why? And do you want to pick up the phone and see what it is that it's truly trying to say? I think if in whatever way that looks out, and it's seeming as if we're picking up the phone with each other as the same species, but we're not thinking about potentially the origin, which I think that's one of the things we as humans are so fascinated by is origin stories.
Can I talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead. Nothing wrong here.
So I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and my father just passed away this past year. God rest his soul. An amazing man. But he told me something. He said, before COVID hit, he said, the water tables of the mountains are going to open up, and there's going to be some disease hit the society that you're in, son. I know what's going to be in the cities. And I didn't understand what he meant, but there's a lot of things. Toxoplasmosis gondii is related to it. We're just now finding this out. There's different symbiotic life forms that live inside of a human being. We call them parasitic, but I think like 83% of human beings have Toxoplasmosis gondii. When that species dies out of your body, from what I've seen, it's not a direct correlation, but there is a correlation. That those people are affected by COVID-like symptoms. So the situation. So I don't know if that's directly related, but my dad seems to believe that it is. So it seems like it's something that is cyclical in nature. Is the spreading of these different diseases. Well, the exact origin may not be what we think it is. We might see a correspondence or some type of correlation there, but disease, when we found with COVID, that spread didn't just happen from China. It was all over the place. We couldn't understand how it exactly got to those places. So I believe that it was something that happened in multiple forms. That's also what created the mutations of it myself is it came from different places on the earth. It's synchronicities, right? It might have came out of a lab in was it Wuhan, China? But I'm sure it came from other places as well throughout, through the planet somewhere. I believe my father is correct on that, because if you look back in the different 100-year markers, there's been diseases that have hit this world in the same way. So I don't believe it's necessarily something that can be prevented. I think it's more or less like a white blood cell of the planet itself. So it might be overpopulated. We might not be taking care of it properly. So the different systems of the earth will start to fight off what it considers to be parasitic, which would be us. With all the nuclear waste that we're putting up in the Antarctic and northern Canada, and of course around China, and all these different places that we're destroying the planet, it seems like it has other systems that is fighting against that toxicity. That's just my personal opinion. So.
Yeah, no, and that theory again. Like for those who are listening to, and it's been disclaimers. This is not nursing advice, medical advice. This is philosophy. This is because we there's a lot to this universe. I think we just really don't know. And it's not to say that it should be discounted or that ignorance is bliss. I think it's just something to look into. To have a fascination with the wonder and awe. I think the moment we lose wonder and awe in life, I don't know what else is really in there. I mean, there's so much to discover, and when you discover whatever it is that you're looking for, and if it is you find it, you don't. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight either, too. So nature teaches you that too. Wow. Okay, so I know some actual listeners. We can still veer back, but didn't know. Is there anything else you want to touch upon with healthcare as well at this time?
With healthcare, man. Like we talked about before we came on. I feel like the mental health of this society that we're in is really starting to deteriorate due to different, I guess, traumatic stress episodes that people went through with COVID. I've met a lot of people that seen death around them. They have a lot of anxiety about death and about disease. And I was one myself. It took me 3 years to shake that finally. And it was, I just didn't have somebody to talk to about it. I didn't have somebody that would give me that encouragement. I didn't have anything but my own conscious mind, my own conscious mind. And finally, Aaron, the hypnotherapist, got me through that, man. It was horrible. Like I said, I had 2 brothers pass away from fentanyl overdose this past year. My father from colon cancer.
If I can stop real quick, and what he is saying, there is a live video on Facebook. You were live with Aaron as well. They can go ahead and check that out. And thank you again for sharing. But yeah, please keep going. Just wanted to let everybody know that.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. But I had a lot of death around me, so it really left a PTSD type scenario in my mind, and I've been absolutely scared scared, to death from death and disease and going out in public. It gave me anxiety, and I wasn't able to be the highest version of myself because of that. And if there was, readily available mental health organizations that could help people get through those situations, I would have been a lot better off. I mean, I wouldn't have been nearly as low as I was the past 2 years. But thank the Lord, I came through it with the help of my brother, my family. So, yes, I think that since we had these traumatic events, even Katrina here in New Orleans, that a lot of people need mental health assistance. And I don't think that it's not nearly accessible as it should be. But I mean, again, everybody has their own traumas in life. But I believe that there's a lot to be done with mental health since the COVID pandemic.
Absolutely. And to keep it in conversation, and I think that's the other part is I feel like in history, there's all these parts of conversation that either you talked about with a select group of people because you could, whether it was on whatever topics it was. And now we're becoming more and more, I guess, the way that history is, we're just becoming more and more comfortable with having to explain what is happening because we've never had it happen really before, if that makes sense, right? So, and that's our fascination now, is being able to share that, I feel. But wow. And to see, and for those who don't know, and those who are wondering too, there is a link on the Empower BioLink to be able to find treatment centers all around, and it's free. I have it on there. I'm not taking it down. Go ahead and pass it along to friends and family. Also on there, if you need COVID tests and you're within the United States, there's also a link on there as well. So yeah, and it is correct to see that in society too. If I can offer what it is you were saying too, is it's within language. I had a conversation with a healthcare professional. I can't remember when it was, but I do remember it did happen. We were talking about how within language now we have mental health care facilities, whereas before they were called asylums, whereas before they were called, you know what I'm saying? So it's changed. It's the same concept. It's just changed through language. And they say, I mean, Nikola Tesla had said too, if you want to understand the laws of the universe, think in terms of sound, frequency, and vibration. And I think those words have an impact on us. And it may even be at the passive level, the subconscious level of being able to see it. Yeah. And heart rates raise and you don't know why. I mean, there's something going on there. You can't just discount what it is. It's your body's, what is going on with it in whatever way it is. Yeah. 120%. And I feel, I know we did have some actual viewers write in and they were wondering, and I don't know if I can run these past you for those who want to listen, why, here's the first one. So I'll go like a kind of a speed round. First one is thoughts on why you picked this podcast. That was one of the first ones that they had asked.
Absolutely. Well, the same thing I just spoke on, man, is if I just had the right outlets of wisdom, I mean, there's no telling where I could be today. And if people are listening to your podcast right now, then obviously they have some health concerns, or some people that they know have some health concerns, whether it be physical or mental. Mm-hmm. And it's a great source to share what we have to say, and just our opinions. Our opinions on what we've been through. I'm sure other people can relate to it and resonate with, and maybe give them a little bit of advice and help them be pushed in the right direction as well. So somebody might hear something I have to say, it makes sense to them. You wouldn't believe what I went through, man. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was beautiful too, but it was scary what I went through. So, I mean, I could definitely relate with a lot of people, and I'm sure that other people, I'm 1,001% that somebody right now is listening to this, and I'm sure they went through a spiritual awakening themselves, and they're like, man, this helps.
Yep.
I'm not alone.
And they get it.
Knowing that you're not alone, I mean, it helps you so much. It really does. So just to reach out and to let people know that you're not the only one, that's the number one reason why.
Absolutely. And it's interesting for me, even if I can share this within healthcare, was in my lectures to see how they describe, how they put religion and how they put spirituality into the lesson plan. And it was amazing to see that they did have distinctions between the two. And they did talk about multiple cultures and being able to say, this is what you would do with this person of this culture. I'll never forget my review course. Renee Bushta, she had told me too, if you have a patient that's Muslim, doesn't matter. The end point of their death, you go ahead and you face them, you get that bed and you face it towards Mecca, and you have just passed your exam because you put down the right actual answer. And that's the thing to integrate too. And I want to touch upon what you had said earlier too. I know we're going in. We've said speed round about the patient experiences. That's all part of that journey too, is incorporating that and being able to have that open ear from family. If they have a certain way of being able to honor that. And I think I wanted to veer into the next question. Some people had asked on plant medicine, and I think for me, if I can offer is, and what I've seen from what I'm reading up on with ancient Egyptians and before is they were able to talk about it in history. They have it in there. They had tales about it. And I think if I can offer this, I think more and more people, not only with trauma do they want to talk about, but also death. Another thing I got was, I think it was back in the 80s, we just started integrating hospice centers. Like we're new, I think, as in humans into looking into death and honoring death and being able to have that be a part of it. And the body is keeping count too, because there's still stories that were had with whoever it is that did pass, and being able to have that moment, even if it's the person being in the room silently, if it's the family member being there silently, there is so much reviewing through their head if it was like a movie, each and every moment. And it's amazing that in the moment that's what's happening. And people want to engage in that last moment, the dying moment, and whatever it may be, if I can offer that. But at the same time too, I think it's the people that are in the room, because off of the paradox, we talk of death, we must talk of the creation of life too, I think, because I'll never forget being back in nursing school, and I went in. It was a vaginal birth. My teacher came and got me, and she was like, "Brett, this lady's about to pop." She's like, 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, go in there, has the baby, exciting. And the husband comes up to me, runs up, gives me a hug, and says, "Thank you so much." I hadn't seen that man at all my whole life. And he was already happy, but it is almost this essence and in this moment, right, of being able to share in that very moment and seeing what comes out of that for others. And that very, although that power, right, of the creation, right, same thing happens, I still think, in the power of when someone does pass away. It's in a different, because some people, they may be in that room and they're like, celebrate, they're like, I'm glad, like they were not in a good situation. And it's to integrate, to be able to talk about that. And I think the body's keeping count, and I think that's one of the conversations we as humans don't really or haven't had to be able to have, or we're not told, we don't have a roadmap for it. And I think you offered it as being able to talk about that and to express it, beyond just a system where, like you said, there may be limited access to mental health services or just beyond, but let me go here. Okay, so other questions on community. They were saying, what do you believe is the most effective form of healing?
Okay, well, let's touch on both of those at the same time then.
Sure.
I think that'd be a great idea, is the plant medicine and the most effective form of healing. So plant medicine, I learned during my spiritual process, or my mental instability phase, whatever you want to call it. I learned that colloidals were great for antiparasitics, antimicrobial, and just all around great disinfectants. I also learned that it's a cure for pink eye. It's also a cure for sinus infections, any inflammation, whether it be internal or external. It's also great for foot soaks, because a lot of people don't really realize that hookworms cause neuropathy. So walking outside in the grass with your bare feet, you get little microscopic worms inside your body, and it causes a problem with your nervous system. So check that out if you guys have neuropathy. Also, foot soaks like onions and garlic and myrrh, frankincense, and these older herbs and spices. These things is a crucial part of keeping your temple free from intruders, invaders. Also, I found out frankincense essential oil behind your ear cures, the ringing in your ears from tinnitus. It's incredible, So these herbs, they're given to us, that we learn about them and its effects on different living organisms. And those organisms sometimes are in our body. They're safe for us, but they're not so safe for those organisms. So, any type of plant-based substance that can target a specific problem that you might have that doesn't cause any adverse effects in your body, I think, I'm green light on. I think it's a go. It just depends. I also know that the Indian culture, and a friend of mine's from Sri Lanka, they drink out of silver jugs, right? A huge part of their culture. And my friend never could understand why he was getting sick over here so much. He said, "Man, I've never been so unhealthy since I came to America. I think it's a dirty place, apparently." And I said, "No, man, let's take a look at your day-to-day. What are you doing differently?" And we finally found out, we talked to his father, and it turns out that the silver jug, it releases colloidal silver into your water. And that's why the royals in the past, the kings and queens would eat off of silverware, and they'd have blue lips also. But it would also keep them healthy. eating off of silverware, drinking out of silver pitchers. So he started doing that and got a lot more healthy too. All of his illnesses went away. So, I just think taking a look at culture and society and wondering why people did things, our ancestors, and then really applying them to ourselves. Like my father told me about these things called the Baghdad batteries that was found over in Iraq. A lot of people think that it was for electroplating, but that's not the case. It was actually used to make colloidal silver and colloidal gold in that region. So the very first batteries ever made was giant Leyden jars to make medicine. And they were found in the shaman's huts or the magicians, whatever you want to call it. But those are actually used to make medicine. And a lot of people don't know that. But that if you're, somebody like me, our ancestors, my family's ancestors, we've always used colloidals for all the cattle, the livestock, the children running around. So yeah, if you know what I know, come from a culture like me, which not everybody is, but those things resonate with you, and you're like, oh wait, that's not what they use that for. They use it for this, like the electroplating. They didn't electroplate anything over in that region at that time. There was no artifacts found with electroplating. Why would you think that?
Yeah.
It was used for medicine.
Yeah.
Why would it be in a shaman's hut? It's for medicine.
Yeah.
So, finding out about those different things, there's a lot of different, even in storybooks, like Silver Bullet Killed the Werewolf. There's a lot of things that society's put into different stories and history that we just kind of ignore. But if you dig a little deeper, you can find a lot of that good information.
Wow. And that's integration historically too, is to see that. I never thought about it that way with the story of the fable, right? Depending on how people look at it, of the werewolf and the silver and colloidal silver. Yeah. Huh. And that's half us too, right? Half man, half wolf. So that's the
right. Well, in my opinion, that's what I think. Religion looks at as demons. I mean, if you look at a dog.
Oh yeah, hold on. Next topic was war, aliens, and AI. So if we want to start, we could start with if that helps out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm scared to death. Terminator. No,
yeah.
I'm scared at all, man. I think it's great. A lot of our documents for our businesses, we use AI to come up with a rough template for. We use AI to increase the image for some of our artwork, for our prints, and some of our digital creations. Also, I get a good laugh at night whenever I use AI to create a picture. And I think that our collective consciousness is going to be adjusted by the media and content that we create and we share on social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to change the way that we generate images and communicate. And I think the consciousness that's in us that steers our thoughts and our actions, it will be adjusted and it will grow right alongside of what we consider to be AI. I don't believe that there's any artificial intelligence. I only believe of intelligence, and the AI that we have is a compendium of all human knowledge and consciousness that we put into it. So it's just another form of our conscious images and creation. So I don't think it's going to be anything what people think it is. I think that there's going to be limits, and I think that there's going to be a lot to learn with the robots and unmanned, UAVs or whatever. There's going to be a lot there. We're going to have to definitely look into the legislative systems and try to figure out some kind of limits on what we can program, how we can program, what the fail-safes are. Because it can be scary.
Yeah.
But as long as we have the right appointed officials in our government and we keep the right government and keep our government, I don't think we have anything to worry about. Now, if you're a criminal, absolutely. But if you're a functioning citizen that, you're on your own journey, stay in your own lane, you're not doing anything wrong, then I don't think you have a problem. And I don't think that any government in this world really necessarily wants to hurt its society. That's what it is. It is its society.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people look at government the wrong way, in my opinion. I think that some appointed officials have had villainous views, and they have asserted their dominion in a harsh manner, and definitely done wrong in the past. And I'm more compass ways differently than theirs. But overall, as long as we stay politically concentrated in our own day to day, and we keep voting, we keep putting people in office that we have similar perspectives on, then I don't think we have a problem. We do definitely have a problem if we appoint people into office or we don't vote. We don't keep conscious of who is in the offices, but. Yeah, as long as we do that, I think we really don't have anything to worry about. I think our officials are doing a great job. everybody always hates the president. So,
I agree. No, but it depends on in which way or shape or form, because some people even support. I want to give a shout out, not shout out, but like I remember there was the cash for clunkers that, and historically, that President Obama did roll out, and there were some people who were conservative that did not agree with him whatsoever, but yet participated in the program. And I asked some of them, and they said the whole sip the Kool-Aid thing, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even hear what that meant. I didn't understand that yet. Yeah, 120%. No, and then I ended up steering it, and I was like, well, I mean, like, that's still, like you had said, like, we did put them there, and they are still citizens looking at programs and using them. I still see that's the way that it is, regardless of who put it in there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and again, everybody hated Trump. I voted for Trump. I did. I'll vote for Trump.
And that's not why I brought him on, for everybody else to know, in case they wonder.
I can't wait to see him again.
Yeah, wow. What was another one people wanted to ask? Okay, so wars and aliens.
Wars and aliens. Okay. Well, I believe that consciousness itself is a different organism than what we think. I think it's a higher form of consciousness, the collective consciousness. So I believe everything's connected. We're all one soul, right? So I don't really believe in other alien organisms. I think that they're there on the macrocosm, on a higher scale. Mm-hmm. We create a company or like a garbage removal company. Think about that for a moment. A garbage removal company is an entity that is formed out of other organisms. And what does it do? So, yeah, a trash truck what does the trash company do? We pay it monies, and a gentleman gets into the truck and a couple guys on the back, and they drive around, they pick up and leave trash, in society, and it cleans up the planet. It's like a Placostomus or something, a Placo. It just runs around cleaning up the environment. Same thing for the mail truck. It's an organization that is funded by our collective financially, and it runs around transferring information and delivering items from one place to another. So it's a messenger service, And a lot of these things, the way that I like to perceive it is as below, so above. Hermetic philosophy. Anything in the body can be expressed in some form in the society that we're in. So, if, there's things about the vision, with our observation services with NASA, thought, which would be the education system. That's what teaches us, as well as, our blood system. That would be the society that we're in, the overall collective. The muscle would be the physical laborers, and it would also be the construction services. It just depends on which role or which archetype or which personification, and of course, then the healthcare, which would be the white blood cells, what heals the broken society. So, everything can be expressed in with the body and in comparison or, measured against. So, we're all one being on this planet. And we have different personifications, different archetypes, different roles in society. And everybody has a play, or everybody has a role in the play, rather. Mm-hmm. So even if you're just an observer watching the play, you're still playing a role. Mm-hmm.
I'd heard somebody else put it too in the universe, we're all buckets full of water. It doesn't matter. We may have different colors, but regardless of what it is, it's still a bucket with water in it. Mm-hmm. And its use and what it is, they're all still the same bucket. So it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, and you got to think about this too, about your consciousness itself. It lives outside of you, and it might be kind of hard to understand, but you got to think about your body. Your body is a collective of consciousness as well, because there's different conscious beings inside your body. Every red blood cell, even the emotion of happiness is a protein that moves a serotonin, dopamine, or oxytocin molecule from a transmitter to a receptor. And that creates the emotion of happiness inside your body. So it's one physical act of living organisms that create a chemical reaction in your brain, and it creates happiness in your body. So, you are a collective consciousness as a self or as an I, and, your own person. So we all collectively create a personification as well. And, it's the collective consciousness. So again, it's all spirit and energy and vibration, frequency that we communicate with. But essentially, we're all connected, and we all have an effect in this world.
Yeah, and there's already communication going on at the passive level too. Yeah, it's like a link. This is the link, right?
It's the craziest thing. I caught on to a lot of that when I was going through my episode. I was like,
yeah,
this is crazy, man. What I was experiencing, and I couldn't express it. I couldn't explain it. Mm-hmm. I was trying to talk to people about it, and they were like, "Okay, you lost it."
Wow.
So, yeah, it definitely. I agree. Subconscious level. There's a lot going on, and there's like we took a walk to the graveyard the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking around, and I was like, "There's something subconscious going on right now that I can't really grasp." I feel like we needed to come here. Like there's an energy vortices or something here that draws to this place. So yeah, there's a lot about life that we don't comprehend in our own lives. Even we're not conscious and aware of everything. But the more conscious and aware we become, the better we work intricately with the world, I feel.
Having that, they say collective consciousness for those who don't know, but like the community aspect. Some people wonder why is it that they're such a people person, and it literally they may have multiple hookups that you just don't know about, and that person may have too. It's just they haven't turned it on or tried it on yet.
What is it? What's the other effect that it has on society, right? So it takes our money. So it feeds off of us. Our energy of money that we put into it, it puts it on the route and it comes around and uses our trash. Same thing with the mail truck. We pay a little bit more out of our paychecks, and then all of a sudden we have an energy around that is able to pick up our information and take it to another location. It can help pay our bills and keep. It's one big collective organism that has these different methods of these different services. And that's to make consciousness have a higher life experience, a higher vibration or a better experience on this planet. At one time we were tribal, and we still had different purposes, each archetype and each role in society. Life is a play. You play many roles in life. Well, we are consciousness on this planet, and we take forms in the roles that we play.
All right. And to see that the collective conscious, some people, they feel like this connectedness with people, and I'd be curious. I mean, theoretically, because again, we have the quantum physics that does exist, and again, I'm not a quantum physicist by any means, but it's that I feel like that's the part of science where if we don't, it's on the borderline too with pseudoscience. I think some people would say too. But then there's also the possibility of the undiscovered. I mean, you could say we know all these different principles about like the ocean as well, but yet we don't know what is on the ocean floor, which could even totally redefine our overall knowledge of it. So it's that happy medium. But I guess, I don't know. I just feel like from what I've felt myself that these people I interact with too is they're fed up. Like humans we're fed up. We literally are in whatever way. And if it's not me specifically, it's the universal consciousness that literally is getting to the point where it's like, all right, something's got to give. Like we've been patient. We've done X, Y, and Z. We've been maybe we all feel we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's for whoever and whatever entity it is. But like to try on and see that potentially there is this overall connection that you could have with people. It's just amazing to think. Like for me and like all of my life, like even as a kid, if you went to an amusement park, if you had the luxury of going to an amusement park, you're literally in line potentially, and all of the collective consciousness is hooked up, and you had no clue. You had no clue. Like, and then finally, it's only after a certain age that people want to talk about it or generate it and think about it. And and the other one is that's getting me, and it's when it comes to plant medicine, is what's called cognitive liberty. And I'm looking at the overall term of that, and I'm starting with it because it's a journey so far. I've seen that put into language of being able to literally talk about using your own consciousness and being able to see whatever there is from the 70 some neurotransmitter that you have in your brain, and you're being told by certain entities in your own life, whether state and local ordinances, whether or not you're able to do certain things with certain ones or not, but yet other ones are legal, easy to get, over the counter, and lead to certain, historical, we'll say, human behavior, as you can look to. So in whatever way it comes out, and all of them have it. They all have a history in some way, shape, or form. I want to acknowledge that, but it's amazing to see too that correlation also with the conversation of drugs and guns, which I think there are a lot more dangerous things to talk about in this world than drugs and guns. They are definitely big topics, but I feel the overall big topics to talk about get veered out between those two topics, because you can easily fixate on the two, and they do. They definitely have their place, and not discounting that in any way, shape, or form. But to see, it would be interesting if that is even an overall obsession with the universal consciousnesses, wanting to veer towards those topics, because there are a lot of stories. I can definitely say from my own experience with people in my life and social structure that drugs and guns have definitely had an impact on my life, 120%. But I have to say too, it's also veered away, I think, and blurred away from more dangerous things that exist and things that we could keep in conversation and talk about. So, yeah.
I have to say, drugs and guns. The reason why is because, excuse me, is we're meant to live. We're meant to be vessels for life, the force of life, or the spirit of life, or what ancestors always called or the breath of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of my episode, and this is actually why I know that there is a soul inside me that's inside of everything. It expressed to me that it was the I am, or the ego, the I am the light of this world, or whatever during my episodes. But it also expressed itself in the name of HU. When I was in a meditative state, I went to the Akashic Records. We talked about it actually in one of the video series that we have. Mm-hmm. So I do have a lot of information on that. Like I said, we have it in those video modules. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But knowing that you have a soul, knowing that you have a life force inside of you that wants to live inside you, it also makes you understand why it's so important in society that we keep other people safe and healthy. Because it wants to live inside them too.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to leave their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal is life. Not death, because we're supposed to fight death. And again, I think death is an illusion. I think that the consciousness lives outside of it, but it wants to be inside of our vessels for as long as it can without having to generate new vessels to occupy. So that's why I think drugs, guns, and healthcare is the number 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
because that's what the consciousness of the universe wants to target. It wants to be alive.
Yeah, right. And then there's beyond those topics, which are big, there are also other dangerous things to talk about that are going on, and more dangerous things beyond it. They're the hot topics that are out there, 120%. But I think the spirituality aspect, in whatever way that comes out, and not being able to be, I don't know. I'm not here to quote the Bible, but there's no better way, I think, to say it than to love your neighbor. Like to actually have a neighborly aspect and to see what that looks like. Especially for others. And it comes down to the overall golden rule too, if I feel, is treat others the way you want to be treated. And what that looks like historically, and what we are inheriting historically, and what we are seeing too societally historically, and seeing that it was just inherited, that we can recreate and disappear and upset. We've been able to do a lot of stuff as humans on this planet. A lot. Even to the point where even before we had language, we were doing stuff. So I'm putting in here, and I think there's definitely areas that we can continue to generate possibility even in the faces of disagreement. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you heard the steamboat in the background.
Oh, yeah?
Man, I absolutely love living in New Orleans.
Oh, my gosh. New Orleans. I've been once. I think it was in 2021. Yes. It was right when they closed down. Obviously, I haven't had a drink since January 18th. That's just one thing I've created myself. But when I was there, the big spots that people go to, is it Pete's? Is it something Pete's here? Yes. And it has its own, there's all their own lore that they do all have. But I think it was mandated at that time, you had to have food to be open. If you didn't have food, you weren't allowed to serve liquor or anything at the time. So it was interesting to see in that moment to go there. But yeah, no, definitely. If you haven't been to New Orleans, people invent the possibility of being able to go and not only do that, but support local businesses too. That'd be awesome. Yep. 120%. I also didn't know if we wanted to throw in your thoughts on plant medicines I'm throwing it out because it's the biggest one so far, and it's Ohio. Like, it's the swing state. It's the 24th state that's just legalized recreational marijuana, and it's not implemented yet. You're not allowed to do anything yet, folks. From what I've seen, again, not nursing advice, not medical advice, legal advice, any of that. But I was reading that they're proposing. I don't think there's anything wrong with having proposals and being able to propose stuff in government, but they're looking to propose the ability of people not being able to grow at the home. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts.
Absolutely. So, as a young man, I lived in Denver, Colorado for a while when they first made it legal. And nothing against Denver, Colorado is great. It's a great experience. And they learned themselves that some things have to be observed. I did get a hold of some marijuana there that made my blood pressure skyrocket. The fertilizers that they use on the different plants, right? So there was a giant grow operation, and every time I got a hold of any marijuana from that dispensary, they kept giving me high blood pressure and anxiety, and I couldn't understand why. It deterred me from a good medicine, which, I believe marijuana is a great medicine. It deterred me from it and made me scared to use it because the additives that was in the marijuana. So I think that a lot of people, the fertilizer, again, it wasn't something that was against the law or anything like that, or even had a history of it. It was just something that there should be some research done on chemicals used on the marijuana. Anything that's going into society, there should be research and certain allowed chemicals used on it, so that way it doesn't have any type of adverse effects on the society that it's provided to. Now, if you're growing it for your own personal use because you're in fear of getting a hold of fentanyl or something like that, yeah, a plant or two, it may be up to 10 plants, for you and your friends and the family. That would be good. But anything that's provided to the populace, the population of the cities or of the state of Ohio, I think that it should be monitored by the local government or inspected, or some type of documentation, that would show what they're using for, so that way we could track health and usage. Because again, that's what we do in society is we learn from our mistakes, and if they used a fertilizer that turns out it causes cancer, you don't want the entire state of Ohio to fall victim to that just because they used a cheap, popular fertilizer. So, we should definitely monitor it in some way, shape, or form for the state. If the state would get more involved and they actually had some type of office that would entertain that type of thing, I think I'd be all for it. But again, people growing it, freely, that would open up a lot of cans of worms that we might not be ready for.
Beyond what it is you said for the 2 plants up to 10 potentially, but and that's what you had mentioned, right? Beyond that, you'd say regulation wise. Okay, just wanted to clarify that there too.
Some type of documentation, monitoring what's being used, or telling them what they're allowed to use for the fertilizers and for the water supply and hydroponic systems and such.
Yeah, because there were even reports too, and you can look it up, folks, of dispensaries in Colorado, and it's going to happen. It happens throughout the whole United States, wherever it is legal. Again, look into it. There are certain metals that have been found in dispensary marijuana as well, not just with the fertilizer as well, prep process. But another thing too is, if I can invite this, Stephen, is we are at that process where we're rewriting the rules. We're reintegrating it, and we're putting in the audits of things to look for, like what happened from your experience, so we don't have those happen. And it's interesting to have it in conversation. And I didn't know if you've had moments where you want to have these conversations about a topic such as marijuana, but then you run up against a generation that doesn't even want to have anything to do with it. So there's that overall moving forward aspect. And I didn't know if there's anything that you'd like to share with that, or any success you've had with that.
Absolutely, man. We are the torch bearers. I'm not sure if you've ever seen those, on the Olympics, but where you pass the torch. We're the torch bearers right now. We are the ones that decide where our society goes. So we have to be more conscious and aware than what we were when we were younger. We have to be more considerate about the people around us and the effects of society, right? So it's no longer about us and our personal opinions. It's no longer about what we like and what did good for us. It's about doing things properly, right? Not just for us, but for the next generations to come.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of an interview I had seen with, I don't know if people are going to, whatever it is you want to get from this, but John Lennon had said, and it's amazing to see that we are, like you had said, we are the establishment now. And it's amazing to step into those shoes, or at least to see that you're in those shoes now, and not be mad at the government, not be mad at the politicians, because you're the ones that are putting them there. You're the ones that are allowing it, and the moment you get out there, and some people are even saying, they'll declare that some of the people that are running it are insane. And the weird part and the most insane part about that is you're considered insane if you say something like that. And it's like, and John Lennon had said that in one of his interviews, and it's not wrong, because, and not like you had mentioned earlier too, is not everyone is that way. It's depending on the conversations and the people to be had, but it is blurry. It is muddy water sometimes into seeing what people's are. And maybe some people want it to be muddy water for their own, to the overall collective agenda. I'd be curious. Yeah. Because I think, like you said, I think the overall purpose is, I think people have felt it, at least throughout their own parts of life, is that, yes, we are meant to work and to be able to give back into society and to be able to give back to the collective. At the same time, too, there is personal health and wellness to consider. And it's amazing, the knobs. I live life as a wall of knobs. How the one knob has been turned down by employer and society of self and personal wellness. And now we as humans want to turn the knob up. We know the knob's there. We want to turn it up, and we want the support to be able to keep the power on too from our employer, so that we can keep it going. And because it'll all trickle, I feel it'll all have an impact on the patient experience too, to make everything go through. Because all these are still people who can't, like you had said, may not be able to go and get pain medication. They do know somebody who does grow marijuana. And again, is it any substitute? And again, this is none of that advice anyway, but, and it's also not, if you look into the medical marijuana education, which I have done some of it on Coursera, you can go ahead and see that, that it's also no substitute for acute pain. So I still believe in the other part of the plant that exists that we have taken and had an over heavy emphasis on, and that is the poppy plant, and being able to use that for pain, because that is still plant medicine, I still feel. But in society as well, since we're having this reintegration of marijuana, those two, I feel like there's this heavy emphasis on them to the point where those are the two we've seen most likely out there in nature. And I think there's all the other plant medicines that exist, but there's no real connection with that, being able to look and see that these are potential opportunities that you could look at. And you know what I don't want to do? Promote people to not tell their provider about it. Please tell your provider about it. Hide nothing. See what they say. Try it on. You know, it literally is. And to see what impact it could potentially have, and if it's positive, do it, because there's not a lot of research out there right now for this. So, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's something about pain medication. Poppy said.
Absolutely.
My father, he had a motorcycle accident. I just got to say this. He had a motorcycle accident when I was younger. I think I was 14. And he had some serious issues for about 9 months. That was a very strong point in my life where I learned a lot about drugs and medicinal uses of them. But the number one thing I learned was pain medication isn't something that should be meant forever. Your body has to have that sense of pain. You have to have that need to grow and to heal. You know, and if you're constantly providing something into your body that's blocking these different signals from your body, you're not going to heal properly. You're not going to have a driving ambition to go to rehabilitation programs to be able to heal. The people have to, the usages of the medications has to get better. There has to be a program for healing, not just to treat something with a chemical. I can't stress that enough. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, every day I live with pain. Well, guess what? We all do. Nothing against people that take it on a daily. I understand that there are some diseases and some situations that it's a necessity.
If I can offer this, pain is subjective, right? It is subjective. I get it. Yes.
Subjective.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I just feel like that there's a lot of scenarios. Again, being from Kentucky, we had a huge opiate epidemic for a long time, and it caused the heroin boom, and then the fentanyl boom, and then now we've lost a lot of lives. So, one thing leads to another, and we got to be conscious and aware of that, because the pain management clinics that we had opened up, it had a huge recoil that destroyed a lot of our society. So, again, we just have to monitor what we distribute, how we distribute it, and handle things in the process of growth and healing and the completion of it, not just treating somebody. Treating somebody, it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. It's a process to get someone healed to their best potential, not just to treat something so that way they're not in pain.
I get it. And to live a life worth living and a life they love. And what else really? I think that's the overall goal that we strive towards in life.
We do, but I don't feel like every provider has.
Oh, no, absolutely. What is their overall mindset? Yes, no, that's a whole nother one. I'll never forget, back in nursing school, I was randomly in the library and I looked up one of the books and it said the 15-minute appointment. And I was like, this is a book? Like someone literally published a book of how to get in and out of a room in 15 minutes? That's wrong. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's no personal situation
there. I agree. And people will go, well, you can still do it. You can still do it. And potentially, maybe you can. 120%. But I don't know. It depends on the way that comes out, and I guess what society has seen. Because it'd be nice to be able to send a message to society to let them know, yeah, we're in the works on that. Like, because it's more of an ethical kind of a thing. But and that's maybe where someone could look into the collective consciousness if they have access, if they wanted to too. So, wow, I get it. I didn't know if there's anything else you'd like to say before we go ahead and close with the empowering quotes, because I appreciate you being here, Stephen. And again, you're welcome to come back.
I do actually. Something I learned about my own journey is that my entire past has made me who I am, and a lot of people forget that. We search for purpose, and we search. That's the number one problem I've found in society is people, they're searching constantly for a purpose. But we're here to do anything that we want to do. So take your past experiences and apply it to everything that you do. And you choose what you want to do. If you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. If you want to be a healthcare provider or somebody that's an advocate for, these services like yourself, do that. Personally, I think it's hilarious that my kids told me when they were 4 years old what I was going to be, and it's hilarious that they were right. But I get to do anything I want to do, and I encourage everybody, to go out and just do whatever it is you want to do, whatever makes you happy. Go make yourself happy.
Yep, and you'll know it when you feel it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do it, and you may doubt it and shy it away, but yeah, and it's something to try on. People may try it on and take it off, but wow, I dig it. That's very empowering. Thank you for that, Stephen. I appreciate you. And thanks again for being on, and folks, this has been episode 41. Thanks, Stephen. Bye for now.